I'm Tom Rioch, promoting successful business experts, connecting people throughout the world from my podcast studio in Brazil. Joining us today from San Antonio, Texas, John David Graham, founder of Good Samaritan Home, a housing mentoring program helping men and women restart their lives after prison. He's also an award-winning author of Running as Fast as I Can, available on Amazon. So, John, what is your best advice for someone who wants to start over late in their career?
Well, let me just say that I started very late in my career. I went through about 8 different failed careers from society's standpoint. And at 53, when I should have been retiring, I really had to start all over again. And my wife and I decided, what is the need in the community? Are there people who are struggling as much or more than us? And what we decided to do was open a shelter to help men and women get a second chance. And we did that. And by literally opening our own house to strangers to help them temporarily. But one thing led to another, and we were able to scrape together some dollars and get a house across the street. And then eventually the state of Ohio came to us and said, we have men coming from prison who desperately need temporary housing, a shelter, and nobody will help them. Will you? And so we were able to get a contract with the state to offer temporary housing. And that became our funding stream because we met their standards with our acts of, I guess you'd call acts of mercy. And over the next 22 years, we grew from our own house alone.
Where was that house?
Dayton, Ohio.
Dayton, Ohio. So that's where this all started. That was your
it was
focal
in Dayton,
point.
Ohio, because I was there at the time. I had been a minister for a while and had not done very well with it because the church tends to be rather insular if you're not careful. So I went out to the street and so what happened was we went from one house to 19 houses, and now our annual budget is almost $2 million. And we've helped in one level or another upwards of 2,500 men and women restart their lives. And we used to think that this was those people. What we're finding now, particularly with drugs and mental illness, is that it's much closer to home. It's people like you and I who are struggling with addictions. And before you know it, we cross the legal line, or our children do. So we have found that it's not those people anymore, it's us. But one thing I really found was that most people aren't that aware of, or it doesn't affect them personally, is because they've never been to prison. But I believe that what I've learned through it all is that everybody on some level feels they need a second chance. So
that could be anywhere, and I agree with you. And back to the drug and the addiction and the mental health issues. We can, and not only here in the States, here in Brazil, the same way. We can be living amongst persons and we don't realize that they're in a difficult state. We don't drill down. We don't know where they came from. If they came from prison, or if they came from they lost their job, they lost their home.
And our approach was very myopic at one point because it's only those people who have been incarcerated. But what I've learned is, talking to our residents, that they came from dysfunctional families or unstructured families, actually very similar to what I came from. And there, but for the grace of God, kept me out of prison.
Right.
So that's when I started writing this novel called Running as Fast as I Can. And it's not about prison necessarily, but it's about second chances. It's about a boy who grew up in the mill slums of Pittsburgh and struggled to overcome an abusive background. But without the tools, without the structure, without the support, he ended up doing exactly what I did, just going from job to job, career to career, and basically making mistakes.
What I want to do, I want to cut in, but I want to say to our listeners, that's what attracted me to you, to have you on today. Because I'm also from Pittsburgh. I mentioned I was born in McKees Rock. So what I saw leading up to your book is exactly that. That's the way it was when I was a kid. And so it's nothing new for me, but it may be new for some persons who haven't been through that.
Well, Daniel Robinson's the main character, and what he's looking for is a second chance. And it's very hard in our culture sometimes to get a second chance because we like to think that our mistakes are glaring at us, particularly today with the internet. But I believe, and the story is about our mistakes are written in pencil. We can overcome them. We can erase them, but you have to keep running. That's why the book is Running as Fast as I Can, because the best I can do may not be fast, but I'm going as fast as I can. And as long as you keep running, I believe you can reach your goal. And that model applies to a Good Samaritan Home. We had virtually no income for 5 years.
Right.
But today we have 10 people on staff because we kept running as best we could.
Well, I can take back to what you said and back to the prisons. And when anybody is incarcerated, they have a record, right? And the same thing here. And again, how do you erase a record? So what you're actually doing is giving persons a chance to use the eraser part of the pencil and to forget that there is something recorded somewhere that you can start. And that's not only helping the person, you have to help on the outside. If you're trying to find housing, if you're trying to find a job for them. So it's reshaping a number of people.
I finished my doctorate when I was 61, and I did it on this reentry mentoring. And I did a 10-year study on this. And what I found was that when you help in the community, when you help a man or a woman restart their life, you benefit as much as they do. The community benefits. And I can document that with my research. So rehabilitation is not about a man or woman from prison. It's about all of us.
Right. It's about the community.
Community, absolutely.
The community is made up of everybody.
Absolutely. And community in this internet age has broken down to the point where we connect artificially with strangers and we never have community. So I found that we have to reach out in person.
Right.
We have to touch one another to some level.
Which is something rare today.
Yes.
Because everybody's becoming insulated. And they think they're in a community.
In the book, Daniel says that he lived in a family where they had the same last name, ate at the same table, but they all lived alone together. They were strangers in the same house. And I feel that from what readers have told me, they have felt very closely identified to this character. That tells me there's a lot of angst in the world today, a lot of loneliness.
There is, absolutely. We're all wrapped around a cell phone.
Yeah, and that's made it. There's a book called Bowling Alone where people are not doing the social connections they used to do. And bowling is a microcosm of the decline of communities.
Right. So anyway, I want to thank you, John, for being part of this. How can our listeners find you?
Good Samaritan Home can be, you can check it out at goodsamaritanhome.org and learn all about us. But you can also check out the story of Second Chances with Running as Fast as I Can on Amazon, or you could look at my webpage, johndavidgraham.com. And you're free to contact me. I'm even on Substack. So I do try to talk about these issues in my newsletter on Substack, and it's free.
Very good. Well, thanks again for being here.
My pleasure, Tom. Thank you very, very much.
And for our listeners, it's John David Graham, John, David, David, the last name Graham, Graham. You'll find him on his site, which is johndavidgraham.com. He's also on Instagram and TikTok. Cafe Networking is brought to us by Focus MI Market Intelligence, an agricultural market research specialist in Brazil. More information at their site, focusmi.com. Thanks for listening to Cafe Networking Podcast. Talk to Tom, talk to the world.